Hey everybody, and welcome to our newest installment with one of the most efficient and effective weight training tools for full body strength and conditioning, the Clubbell. In this round, we're going to look at a combo movement that makes up one of Clubbell training's big three, and it's called the hammer swing. If you're looking for something to shred up that core, look no further. This first one in the series, we're going to focus on the two-handed side swing to get started. What we're going to do is you're going to come down to your Clubbell, you're going to grip one hand over the other. You want one hand coming up snug against the knob so that the hip of your hand is coming snug to the knob, and then the other one is going to come up over top. Now what will happen is naturally when you reach for the Clubbell, you're going to have one arm that is longer and one arm that is shorter. So the hand that is closest to the knob is the short arm, and the hand that is furthest from it, closer to the cone, is your long arm, because it's the arm that's reaching out furthest away. And what happens is when you have this long arm, and as I stand up, to keep this arm straight, what naturally happens is this arm starts to bend. My short arm starts to bend. Now, in Clubbell training, if you approach it in a way where you maintain proper mechanics, biomechanics, proper mechanics throughout your body, what you're going to do is you're going to ensure training safety and a lack of injury. And if you are doing Clubbell movements where you don't have that proper elbow lock for the movement being used, you will actually start to develop tendonitis in your elbows, and that can lead to injury, especially down into your wrist, up into your shoulder, and towards your neck. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that that short arm gets locked out. So from here, I'm going to drive down. So I'm going to pack this shoulder, because it pulls this shoulder out of pack. I'm going to pack that shoulder down and lock the elbow out. Now, whenever you're doing any kind of two-handed Clubbell work, you'll always have that odd. It'll feel a little awkward because you will feel a little bit torqued. So you'll always do work on one side, and then you'll switch your grip, and you'll do work on the other side just to balance out the two. We're going to start with our stance, tall to the crown, shoulders down. We want to make sure that we allow, with the long coccyx to crown, that we drop the pelvis so that we're dropping our tailbone down. And that comes from having slightly soft knees, just soft knees, not a big bend, but we don't want the knees locked out either with a major tilt in our pelvis. We want to allow the tailbone to drop. This allows us to engage our core so that we can swing heavier, faster, for longer. So from here, I'm going to go into a side hip root. So with the side hip root, I'm pushing that hip out to the side and back at a 45-degree angle. What this does is it creates a spiral action moving through my leg down into the ground, essentially creating a spring, so that that spring can then launch the Clubbell up as we do the side swing. So from here, I'm going to come down into my side hip root, and I'm going to start with the Clubbell across my body. So my arms, I'm going to start from over here across in front to the one side. And then from here, I'm going to drive my foot through the floor. So it's like you're trying to push your foot through the earth. And that's going to cause a strong leg drive coming through so that then you can snap your hip to the other side. And as you're driving through this leg, there's also an opposite drive in the other side. And that's where you get the power to lift. So from here, down to the side, and now you'll notice that when I'm going into that side hip root, I'm not bending over in my back, allowing the Clubbell to come down here. We don't want to be bent over with the Clubbell swinging to try and reach further to one side. So as I'm coming across, I'm not bending at my back. We want to maintain that long coccyx to crown with the core engagement. You're going to hurt yourself if you do this. So you really have to push through that hip. So what you can do is you can actually do a few of just the side hip roots back and forth to warm up and get that feeling. You should feel an opening through your glute and your hip on the side. So from here, As I'm loaded, I'm now able to reach over, my shoulders are still packed, my elbows are both locked, and as I drive into the ground, that's going to bring the club bell up, getting that spring, that spiral action. And as I press this foot, the opposite foot from which the club bell started at, into the ground, I'm going to start to straighten my knees out. So I'm going to straighten my knees out so that I can get the drive into the hip, which will then lift the weight to the opposite side. As I lift the weight to the opposite side, I'm driving through with my hip, and I still want to make sure shoulders packed, elbows locked, because it's going to happen. You're going to start feeling good, but if we're not conscious of it, if we're not thinking about it in the beginning, our elbow is going to start to come out, and that will eventually lead to injury. So you want to keep it locked. So we're coming up and down and down and down on the one side. Now at the top, after I've driven into the ground and I've snapped my hip, I am allowing my torso to turn. I'm not getting the bend in my back to try and reach further, neither am I losing my shoulder pack. Shoulders are staying packed strong. I'm still maintaining long coccyx to crown, and drive all the way through and down. And two important points for either end, on the bottom end and the top end of the swing, that as we come down into that side hip root, and we're coming down into the side hip root, you want your club bell to end at a 45-degree angle. So as I come down, I'm actually maintaining a long 45-degree angle. I'm not allowing the club bell to swing up. As you can see, this is actually even awkward for me. It starts pulling me out. So I'm not swinging the end. You're not seeing the end of the club bell come up. You want it to come down and strong. So there comes a point where the arc comes down, and from here, it's that hip root that allows it to get further. That ensures maximum amount of load for the spring to come back out. And from there, and you're gonna need it. For this hammer swing, you're gonna need that load. You're gonna need to learn how to be able to load both legs. It's not gonna be this extreme, but it'll prep you for it. The other end is when the club bell comes up. You can swing it up as high as you want, but for our purposes, I want you to come down, load, drive through the leg, up, and really focus on power as you drive that foot down, power through the hip, turn in the torso, core is engaged, shoulders are packed, elbows are locked, straight out, so that you're projecting the club bell straight out. And just watch that the weight doesn't start to pull you forward. You need to pull back just enough, not excessively bending in your back, but just enough to counterbalance that weight coming out, so that between the club bell and you, there's a line that comes straight down of perfect balance. Okay, that's number one. Let's get started and work both sides and get used to that. We'll see you next week.